Welcome to the channel, Pack Trumpeteer. Hopefully you'll all be trumpeters. Word of warning, I smoke a lot. You may hear it on the audio. I apologize ahead of time. We discuss current issues from a conservative, female, old chick perspective. I'm an old lady, so you get some experience in there too. Today we're going to talk about the debacle known as the Women's March that occurred January 19th through the 21st of this month. Huge tragedy, untold amounts of men and women, just tragedy in the streets. This year's Women's March, let's face it, was nothing more than and sing it with me, sing one and all, no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA, no Trump, no KKK, no fascist USA event. You got to give it to them. That's actually a pretty catchy tune. It makes you just want to keep going with it. You have to change the words though. Yeah, nothing more than an anti-Trump ridiculous event. So let me start off by saying I believe with all my heart that feminism is a cancer on all of humanity. All of humanity. I am not a feminist. I do not subscribe to it, and I think it's ridiculous. Because if I'm going to admit to being a feminist, then I also have to admit women are in fact inferior. And I don't believe in that. I think men and women are already equal. I don't think we need equality because it's already there. I believe in very standardized male-female gender roles, for example. I believe that it's a man's job to provide and protect. I believe it's a woman's job to nurture, love, and take care of him in return for his protection and provision. I mean, that's not to say women can't have jobs. When I was married, I made 3 times as much as my husband. So you say, well, that's not really him providing. Well, it was. He brought something to the table. He contributed, as did I. You know, out in nature, female lions go out and do the hunting. It's a male lion's job to protect the pride and say, hey, that's my bitch, stay away. I mean, when I was married, every morning I woke up, made breakfast for my husband, packed him a lunch, and when I got home from work, made dinner. I myself went out to eat every day. So that's not to say you can't be a woman in a standardized female role and not have a job and feel empowered. These things, these concepts are not mutually exclusive. They're just not. And anybody who thinks they are belong in this feminism category. They are feminists and they are silly women. And this current feminist movement is not about seeking equality. It's about seeking superiority with extra perks. Women are superior. Women get extra things. Men, you need to bow on your knees before me, like the soy boy that you are. That's what they're looking for. This Women's March was ridiculous from setup to execution. On the Women's March board sits Tamika Mallory with direct ties to Louis Farrakhan, who's a complete and utter anti-Semite. In speeches that he's made, he's talked about anti-termite, satanic Jews. He actually believes these things. He's against gays, LGBTQ. He's a horrible human being. Then you have Linda Sarsour with direct ties to Hamas. Direct. Pro-BDS, which is an anti-Israeli movement. It's confounding to me how anybody could even consider this. And the biggest thing, they were going to cancel it because it wasn't diverse enough. It was too white. I mean, when I watch these videos and I look into the Antifa crowd, all I see is a bunch of silly white girls and corresponding desperate to get laid young boys, white boys, all living in their parents' basement. Nothing but white faces in the Antifa movement. You look at the other side, the extremist right-wing fascist side, and what do you see? You see transgenders, you see Latinos, you see blacks, you see whites, you see Asians, you see Joey Gibson takes huge hits. The guy's half Japanese. Tiny. He's Filipino. I mean, you're going to walk up to them and call them fascists? It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. But that's who put on this women's march movement. It's interesting how all of these things come together, isn't it? Interestingly enough, I find it very difficult why some of this the Sharia law, how you could be a feminist and be about empowering women and not be anti-Sharia. I bring this up because of Linda Sarsour being on the board of this women's march. How can you be for both? Sharia law is about female genital mutilation. It's unheard of to me in my world how anybody could think that this was okay. What religion could think it was okay? I just, it's beyond me how that's acceptable to anyone. They're against LGBTQ, clearly. I mean, Sharia law, if you're found to be gay, they'll throw you off a building. Women not allowed to drive, go out with without male chaperones, get an education in many cases. Over in Muslim countries, women actually pretend to be little boys until they no longer can, just so they can get out and live a little. Once, boobs start growing, you either got to tape them up to continue living like a guy or suck it up. Forced to wear that ridiculous hijab or whatever, many different forms, the headscarf. Speaking of the headscarf, you have the Congresswoman. It's a whole nother video. They get beaten by their husband. The Sharia laws. I don't know if there's a book that talks about it or not, but it basically actually lays down specific punishments. Not listening to your husband, not making dinner on time, very specific punishments. Yeah, that's all empowering stuff for women. What are you kidding me? Ridiculous. And Linda Sarsour is the one putting this on. The whole women's movement is a big con game. Just as recently as the late 80s, early 90s, we embraced the differences between men and women. Remember that book, Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus? We embraced the differences. We didn't try to make everybody all one frickin' sex, or I'm sorry, one of 9 million sexes, because it's infinite how many sexes there could be, apparently. In my life, I want a man. I want a man. I do not want a soy boy. If I get into a bar fight, somebody spilled a drink on me and refused to apologize, I want a man standing behind me to take that boy out. I want men. I'm all about men. I like fart jokes. Men are awesome. But what makes a man? Strength in the face of adversity, protection, provision, not just for their own family, but if they see somebody out on the street who's being harassed or attacked, somebody weaker, standing up for them as well, being courageous, respecting and loving those around them, that nurturing them, honor of country and the law. I laugh because to me, actually, one of the best examples of like a true man, like an awesome guy, is Hank Hill from that cartoon, King of the Hill. Perfect example of a great guy, always looking to do what's right, even if it's not the easiest thing to do. What makes women? I mean, caring, loving for her family, taking care of her husband, providing meals, clean clothes, making sure that she is always attempting to do the right thing, following through. That's what makes women. This whole concept of toxic masculinity is like as useful as tits on a bull. I mean, it's a horrible, horrible thing. In this Gillette ad, which is a whole topic unto itself, and I will do a whole nother video on that. But there is one point on it, one period scene that I wanted to talk about, which is the one scene that gets me the most when I watch that whole 1.5-minute long short movie directed by a feminist woman for a male company. When two little kids are tussling around on the ground and dad goes over and says, no, you have to be kind to each other and treat each other better. You know, I think about when a dog has puppies, and what do the puppies do? They toss around with each other, they fight. What are they doing? They're learning life skills. They're learning how to be dogs. They're learning life skills. In that playing and tossing each other around, they're learning actual useful life skills. It's the same thing when two little boys are tossing each other around. Nobody's hurting each other. It's not meant to be this horrific thing. They're just tossing each other around. They're learning life skills. You walk up to a woman, you ask her, what is toxic masculinity? She can't even explain it to you. Watch some of these videos on YouTube. The women are like, well, kind of hard to explain. It's abstract. It's in the abstract. Men can't explain it to you. The soy boys that are also proponents of toxic masculinity, they can't even explain it to you, and they're men. One thing we never talk about, though, what is toxic femininity? What's that girl's name? Samantha Bee? Is that the one I have there? Or Chelsea, whatever her, I don't know. I don't know which one she is because I don't watch any of them. Toxic femininity. It's the bitchy, vindictive girl you went to high school with, but she grew up unchanged. That's exactly what toxic femininity is. Looking to take men out. Looking to reduce them to be cowering at your feet. Ridiculousness. By the way, the Dollar Shave Club, they'll be happy to have you. Go join them. Get rid of Gillette. Gillette is crap. Crusty razors. Rape culture. I include this under toxic masculinity because to me it's all the same BS. Obviously, the whole world thinks rape is bad. Nobody is a proponent of rape except rapists. Rape is bad. Rape is bad. Get one of these NPCs to start saying rape is bad. Real men don't do it. Real men understand that their women are to be loved and protected and not attacked and brutally assaulted. And they're not doing it in untold numbers. Rape it, not like 1 in 2 men is not a rapist. 1 in maybe 400 men is a rapist. No, there are rapists. There are true rapists out there. I'm not disputing that. But we don't live in a culture where we propagate it, we encourage it, and we tolerate it, which is the definition of rape culture. It's all BS. It's ridiculous. Another topic that I saw in the videos that people kept bringing up, gender pay gap. This has completely been disputed by the Gloria Steinem of the 2000s, Christina Hoff Sommers. This woman is a feminist like you wouldn't believe, but a reasonable feminist, a feminist you can actually talk to. And she completely debunks the gender pay gap. I mean, how do they figure out the gap? Well, they add up all the total male wages, reported total male wages to the IRS, and then all the total female wages to the IRS. And by the way, with 9 million new genders, where do you put them? But anyway, and then compare those two numbers. Well, the problem with that comparison is it doesn't take into account variables, and there are different variables. Men take on way more dangerous jobs, being on an oil rig in the middle of the ocean, being, mining for gold out in Alaska. These jobs are far more dangerous. They pay more, but they're far more dangerous. They should be compensated as such. Women take time out of the workplace to go have kids, which is fine. I mean, it's what they're supposed to do. It's what their bodies make them do. Not make them, but, encourage them to do. And so when you're not in the workplace, you're not adding to that total female wages number. Sorry to say, you're not. There's more women in college today. Women in the under 40 demographic are excelling over men. Women are going to college in way higher numbers. They're making way more money. And that's good news for the younger women. It's fantastic. It's not so true for the older women, but it's definitely true for the younger women. So how is that something we have to fight for now? Makes no sense. Another part of the problem is women don't ask for raises. They accept what they're given. Men ask for raises all the time, whether they deserve it or not. And further, well, talk about one of the videos I saw. This one woman was holding up a sign. It was barely literate. I was holding up a sign that said women make 50 cents for every dollar a man makes, which is ridiculous. And then she said, well, we were even told by both men and women it's actually only 36 cents. Okay, so by her logic, if women are making 36 cents for every dollar, why are companies not filling their ranks with nothing but women to save 64% of their payroll, which is a company's single biggest expense? There's no expense in any company higher than payroll. Why not save 64% of it? Makes no sense. In the whole anti-Trump / feminist movement, there's this grab them by the pussy. I saw the pussy became the icon of the march with the pussy hat. One woman was even walking around dressed like a vagina. It was ridiculous. Another woman had a picture of an actual vagina. It was like porn. Kids were there and stuff. Because he said the words grab him by the pussy. Well, this is supposed to be a private conversation. This was a private conversation, what he thought was a private conversation. It's not like he said it out there in the general public. It's reminiscent of the whole Chick-fil-A debacle with the CEO there, where somebody released his private conversations, which, by the way, they made a lot of money in the ensuing weeks. Chick-fil-A did. This was locker room talk. It was totally locker room talk in what was supposed to be a private space. He didn't mention assaulting women. He said, if you have money, they let you. It's not the same as saying, I assault women. If you're going to blame anyone, blame the gold digging chicks who fall for it in the hopes of being the next chick on his roster who gets some of his money. That's it. Yeah, that's empowering to women. Yeah, I'm gonna be your hoa so that she can give me some money. Yeah, that's an empowering trait. These are the women that are at fault here. Men wouldn't do it if women didn't let them. It's that simple. Women have a lot more power here than they think. This whole Me Too movement just drives me insane. One of the biggest problems with this movement is there's some unintended consequences that I don't think anybody realizes the ramifications of. First one, most critical one, is we live in a republic with laws. We're a democracy. We vote for our leaders. One of the biggest things at our core is the presumption of innocence. You flip that to the presumption of guilt. It is one of the most dangerous things that can destabilize what we live for in a country. Of course, that's what the left wants, so they're happy about it. False allegations in this Me Too movement, they don't talk about. Women time and time again have been proven to be lying about their allegations. How devastating is that to the men, their families, their careers? their records, these things stay with them forever. If it happens to a young guy, the rest of his life, that's on his record. If it happens to an older guy, everything that he's worked to build is at risk. These allegations, these false allegations, are so devastating to these men and their families. It's unbelievable how these women could even think to do that to somebody. It's worse than if the women shot them. It's worse than that. What if they're making allegations against your brother, your father, your uncle? Devastating what this does. A particularly interesting unintended consequence, which I think the women deserve actually, is that it's causing regression in the workplace, as men are now scared to hire them. What if they hire a female assistant and the female assistant walks in and all of a sudden this guy now faces an allegation that he touched her ass. He sexually assaulted me. She's looking for a payday because she wants to buy a new house. And this poor guy, his life is turned upside down because he's now being accused of touching her on the ass. Or, hey, we were working late and he threw me on the couch and raped me. Like, why would you want women around you when this is the case? When anybody could be falsely accused? Kavanaugh, again, whole nother topic unto itself. Video on him at a later point. I know it's already done and gone, but I have interesting perspectives on it, I think. But these women need to be careful of crying wolf. At some point, nobody's going to listen to them, which is really doing a disservice to women who have actually been brutally raped. Matt Damon, here's another example of reason. And I had a lot of respect for Matt Damon when he said this in an interview with Bill Maher. He basically said there's a difference between patting somebody on the butt and rape or child molestation. There is a significant difference. He was vilified by the left, by his Hollywood cronies and his audience for saying that. The reality is there is a vast difference. Not everything is rape. Not a guy patting you on the ass, calling you sweet cheeks, a cop arresting you because you're being non-compliant. These things are not rape. These things are just what they are. Annoying, whatever, get over it. I used to work down at the ports. I used to be called sweet cheeks, baby cakes all the time. I used to have all kinds of things. Guys just completely staring down my shirt. Here's the thing. I didn't really care. I'm a businesswoman, make over $100,000 a year, a lot more, and I don't care. You're not affecting me. You're not in my purview. You're not in my world. And if you do care, perhaps you're not living life right. If that's all it takes to get you crazy. I mean, seriously, a brutal, forceful, even sodomy is not the same thing as somebody grabbing your ass or slapping you on the whatever. And you're deluded if you think you're helping your female sisters out, because you're doing them a serious disservice. The ones who truly have been brutally, egregiously assaulted and violated, you're doing them a disservice by calling everything rape. Seriously, a serious disservice. Trump is a misogynist. That was a sign that was seen quite often in the march. Well, is he a misogynist, really? His first big project in Manhattan, I'm not sure which one it was, might have been Trump Towers in the mid-70s. Seriously, he hired a woman to be a vice president / project manager of that project. So, and that was back in the 70s. Seriously? He's a misogynist? He encourages all the women in his life. Ivana was a vice president of one of his hotels. Look how fantastic Ivanka is. She's a businesswoman. She owns companies. She works in his companies. Now, those are the women around him. But everyone else, in a Washington Post article from 11/24/2015, direct quote, but many women who, and this is the Washington Compost, but many women who have worked closely with Trump say he was a corporate executive ahead of his time in providing a career advancement for women. While some say he could be boorish, his company has nurtured and promoted women in an otherwise male-dominated industry. Several women said they appreciated how Trump granted them entry to a new playing field. Yeah, that sounds like a misogynist. That sounds like a guy who hates women. Today, in 2018, back when he was elected in 2016, who wanted a pussified POTUS? We had a pussified POTUS. Who wants one now? I don't. I want a man. I want somebody who exudes masculinity, who exudes the care and love for his country, for its citizenry. I want that person who truly loves these people in this country to be my POTUS. I want a real man. His biggest fault, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he doesn't do drugs. There's stories back in the 70s when he was young and hooting and hollering. Studio 54 was a hot nightclub. He'd be there by 6 and out by 9. He's a homebody. His biggest fault, he likes beautiful women. You know what? I'm okay with that. I'm wildly okay with that. I could go on and on and on talking more about this whole feminism cancer that we live in today. Patriarchy, mansplaining, that's just so stupid. Planned Parenthood. One of the girls from InfoWars, I think her name is Heather, was going around asking the women, pop question, what's the #1 killer of people today in America? And the answer was abortion. This is much needed population. In Islam, men have 4 or 5 wives. They all have 4 or 5 kids. They are propagating at an astronomical rate. And we, on the other hand, are pulling back. We're having 1, maybe 2 kids. We need to populate. Abortion needs to stop. And further, if you are going to bang out of wedlock, not use protection, shouldn't be on my dollar for you to get an abortion. You made a bad decision, you pay for it. And since Planned Parenthood is funded by the Fed partially, that's my tax dollars paying for your abortion. I'm not down with that. Well, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this commentary. If you did, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I'll see you next time.